All right, and thanks so much for staying with us this morning as we bring you the rolling coverage as we build up to that funeral, and that's where the final service will be delivered for the late Minister Gordhan. And of course, just to remind you of what you're seeing here on the visuals, this of course is his brother's home, and this is where they are having, I imagine, a very private moment as a family together. And any moment from now, we should see that coffin being carried out of the house, and it'll then be put into the hearse, which will then, with a massive convoy, there's a very big, massive convoy outside this house that will then go to Durban, to the ICC, where there is going to be that special funeral that will be taking place. It's an official funeral. And here we can definitely see some movement coming out of the house. We can see a big arrangement of flowers, and usually one would see that, I imagine, being laid on top of that coffin, which is just coming into sight now, draped in the ANC flag. And we have heard that once that coffin does arrive at the convention centre, we should see the South African flag being put on there. There's a lot that is going to be taking place today as the president did declare this a funeral, a Category 2 official funeral. So one can only imagine the planning that does go into something like this. And Natasha, I believe that you were there, you're witnessing this close up. And I know we spoke about the rain being perhaps a blessing. It's always been a tradition that when it rains, it is somewhat of a blessing. But I suppose that does make it a bit more difficult. But we can see the family coming out now. Natasha, perhaps you want to give us a bird's eye view from the scene that you're at now.
Definitely, Leanne, what you're seeing right now are the remains of the former late Minister Pravin Gordhan, draped in an ANC flag, of course being carried there by family members and friends. We do know that a prayer session was actually held inside the family house here at Reservoir Hills. Thereafter, the procession will then proceed to the Inkosi Albert Luthuli International Centre, where, of course, the funeral service of the late former minister will be taking place. And like you said there, that President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver a eulogy. And this is the opportunity where South Africans at large, his former colleagues, family, friends, comrades, will be paying their last respects to a man that they called larger than life. To some, he was known as Pravin Gordhan. To others, he was known as Mr. Fixer, a man who they say stood and fought and did everything to fight against corruption. I mean, we all know that he served as a former public enterprises minister. Of course, some controversy around that. He also served as a finance minister of the country, the minister of Kota as well. He also served as the SARS commissioner for 10 years during former President Thabo Mbeki's reign. And a lot of people have lauded his work. A lot of people have lauded the work he did as a finance minister to actually turn around, the tide in the country's economy, Leanne. But what I can tell you that it's really a somber moment and a somber mood here outside of the family home. You mentioned something quite interesting, in the African culture, when it rains, when you lay somebody to rest, it means that the heavens are actually opening. And for his family, as somber as it might be, some actually believe so, that indeed the heavens are opening for a person who fought for the freedom of this country, played a pivotal role in fighting for, democracy. We've seen people like Zweli Mkhize also paying his tribute to him, saying that through Pravin Gordhan's activism, he helped strengthen the idea that black people, Indians and coloureds shared the same struggle. And this is also echoed by the sentiments of the ANC's provincial chairperson, Boniso Duma, here in the province of KZN, saying that he was a person who fought for non-racialism, a non-racial society. And these are just some of the sentiments that have been pouring in, some of the tributes that have been pouring in by his former colleagues, by his comrades. And, I just want to bring you back to a conversation that Hasina Gori actually had with the family spokesperson, Mr. Adrian Lakay, saying that, in his last moments, Leanne and our viewers, that Pravin Gordhan had expressed to his former colleagues that the country is going in the wrong way and they should not stop working to make South Africa a better country. And this is a person who spoke out, against corruption, who was open and honest about his views. And, in the words of his long time friend, Mr. Mac Maharaj, in that process had actually created enemies for himself, within the ANC. So this is the man that they will be paying a tribute to, bidding farewell to this person. And of course, he was loved greatly by his family, by his friends, and those from his political movement. Of course, as we prepare to leave with this procession, the heavens are truly opening up, Leanne, as you can see the weather here, this side.
All right, thanks very much, Natasha. Natasha stationed there. She'll continue to bring us that coverage here on the SABC News channel. And it's always the finals, isn't it? It's the final ride. It was the final visit from the family for intimate moments behind those closed doors. It was the final drive to the International Convention Centre that we're about to see now. That's, of course, going to lead to his final resting place, which will be done in a private ceremony with the family and close friends and colleagues, I imagine, that will be present for that, but all following the Hindu traditions. But at the moment, what we are seeing, of course, is that part of the official ceremony, and this is something that when you do get the official ceremony, this is where the funeral has these very ceremonial elements that will be performed and are performed by the South African Police Force. Now, continue to stay with us here on SABC News as we bring you this coverage, and we won't stop until it's over. Ayanda, who's here with me in studio now, is about to take over at 9 o'clock. It's been a very somber morning, I must say, reflecting, Ayanda, on the life and times of a comrade, a minister, a fighter who has held so many different positions. But as we say, today is a day of finals.
Certainly, and as we mark the end of one journey, we understand that, of course, it precipitates the beginning of another, especially for the family who, without a doubt, will have to try and make sense of what the way forward looks like. This is certainly going to be a big part of our focus, Leanne, throughout the course of this Thursday morning, the funeral of former Minister Pravin Gordhan, who passed away, of course, sadly, at the age of 75. It's since emerged that he was battling cancer. Yeah. Even that was kept private right till the end, many people will tell you. And we'll stay with these visuals live from the Gordhan family home in Reservoir Hills. That's in KwaZulu-Natal, where, as we've been hearing, if you've been able to keep up with us, we've been watching now the remains of the former minister essentially being brought from the home and taking over to the Inkosi Albert Luthuli Convention Centre, which is close to the Durban CBD. This is certainly going to be, as I mentioned, a big part of our focus, continuing as we take stock of this man who's been described as a stickler for detail, a workhorse in many instances. He, of course, has held a number of government positions over the years, and in many ways that's kind of fed into the public debate around what we should make of his legacy. It comes as no surprise that yesterday, as we listened in to some of these fellow comrades, giving his eulogy, saying, of course, that they're not really bothered by any of the detractors who have taken to social media since we heard of his passing, saying this is really par for the course. It comes with the territory, especially if you're going to be someone as influential as Pravin Gordhan, we're told, was throughout the course of his political activism and throughout, of course, his roles in public office. Once again, Natasha Piri is part of our team who, of course, is helping us tell the story from a number of vantage points. And Natasha, we're watching as family members of the retired minister also head to the Inkosi Albert Luthuli Durban ICC.
Definitely, Ayanda. What you're seeing right now, like you've correctly cited, is that family members have or are leaving the family home. And of course, like Leanne has put it, that this is his last ride from here, the family home, to the Nkosi Albert Luthuli Convention Center, where, of course, his funeral will be taking place. And, of course, this is where, final, tributes will be pouring in for the late former minister, like we've indicated earlier on, that President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivering his eulogy thereafter at a private ceremony. That is when the family will be bidding their final goodbyes to somebody that they called a gallant fighter, to somebody that fought for the freedom, of this country. It was very pivotal in the struggle of this country, somebody who loved his country. And like you said, correctly cited, I mean, he served in many roles. He was once a deputy SARS commissioner, to moving as a SARS commissioner for 10 years under former President Thabo Mbeki's reign. He once served as a Minister of Finance, Minister of COGTA and Public Enterprises. But a person who actually spoke out, against corruption, a person who was very vocal, a person who spoke out against wrongdoing. And, those who are close to him, who spent their final moments with him, had expressed that he was not happy about, the current state of the affairs in the country and the current direction the country was actually taking. And, you hear voices like the ANC chairperson in Gauteng, Mr. Panyaza Lesufi, and, Sponiso Duma, the ANC chairperson in KZN, just committing to the renewal process, of the ANC, that it's time that the ANC gets, or picks up its socks and regains the trust, of the people. And Panyaza Lesufi also recommitting that, come the next elections, the ANC must win back the votes. As you know, that the country is currently led under a GNU government, of which, some have lambasted their mixed reactions against this. And these are just some of the sentiments that were raised over the past days throughout his memorial services. And Mac Maharaj also somewhat echoing these very sentiments, saying that those who fail to correct themselves have no place in the revitalized ANC. And this has been the overriding messages I've been hearing at, the various memorial services that have been held to pay tribute to the late former minister. You would know that the ANC has actually embarked on various renewal workshops, and there's a call for ANC members to get their act and to fix themselves, or else it will be too late, actually, to regain the trust of society, of which they once had at a particular point. So I'll just somewhat just gauge what's happening right now. The procession is ready to leave for the Nkosi Albert Convention Center. Let's just listen in a bit.
All right, so those are live visuals coming from Reservoir Hills. If you've just joined us at 4 minutes after 9 o'clock on this Thursday, the 19th of September, you're watching our ongoing rolling coverage of the funeral service of retired Minister Pravin Gordhan, who passed away sadly at the age of 75 after battling cancer last week. A special official funeral category 2 is set to get underway at the Nkosi Albert Luthuli ICC in Durban, that's in KwaZulu-Natal. Today, what you're watching now are visuals of the former minister's body leaving his family home in Reservoir Hills, headed to the central parts of Durban at the Nkosi Luthuli ICC. That's where that funeral service is going to kick off, with President Cyril Ramaphosa expected to deliver the eulogy. We're going to stay with much of what you're seeing at the family home in Reservoir Hills. We'll certainly keep up with the procession as soon as it gets underway, as much as we can.